No, he's got 4 Aether Vials, which is very good in this deck. But then everything else he has is a goblin, either a creature or a spell, Tarfire or Warren Weirding. So Ringleader is probably going to average 2 to 3 cards each time.
It's interesting. John's deck really shows a lot of how the evolution of goblins has happened over the last year, I guess I would say. The deck is down to 1 goblin pile driver, which used to be considered one of the better cards in goblins, has really been replaced by more of the haste lords, and especially I think the most recent addition being Krenko Mob Boss. So cheating creatures into play plus the 3-mana lords is kind of the newer options for goblins.
Love that card. John's gonna mulligan. Or no, what?
Sorry, he was just, actually I think he was just drawing his opening hand.
Okay.
Just a little behind on that.
Javier is pointing to a card in his hand. It's a little small on our screen, so we didn't see it.
Alright, John Marat, though, now you're right, is going down to 6
I knew that
cards.
was going to happen. I'm psychic, let me tell you.
Price point to a Supreme Verdict.
So Javier has perhaps scouted and knows what the matchup is.
Right.
Pointing out that Supreme Verdict is going to be a very key card for him.
Yeah, Goblin's pretty good in Legacy. One of the reasons, sweepers like Supreme Verdicts not as common in Legacy as maybe they would be, say, in Standard. That said, Goblins can rebuild from a Supreme Verdict fairly easily. Like I said, they do have great card advantage and can do it off 1 Ringleader.
Yeah, or a Matron into a Ringleader.
Exactly.
Its ability to refill the hand is actually quite amazing for a creature aggro deck.
So the Esper Stoneblade deck here, talk about what it's Esper for is just for 1 Inquisition, 2 Thoughtseize. It's not playing any Lingering Souls right now. So it's almost just straight blue-white.
Here we go. Javier starts out with a Polluted Delta. Sifting through his hand, we see Jace the Mind Sculptor, Supreme Verdict, possibly a Batterskull.
Wow, a lot of big hits in this hand.
And a Swords to Plowshares. John starts off with a Bloodstained Mire.
Goblin Lackey would be fine to see from Javier, because he has the swords. Aether Vials, probably one of the things he would not like to see on this turn. And there we go, it is the Aether Vial, not the Lackey. So you see there, John Marat with Goblin Chieftain, Warren Instigator, Gempalm Incinerator.
Javier plays Underground Sea, cracks his fetch land.
And do you have a Stoneforge Mystic here? It's probably would be the ideal 2-drop.
Tundra.
I do not know if he has one. It looks like he does.
So he's got a Stoneforge. John's gonna just think about it and represent something before saying sure.
And John with a really, for GT, John with a really good mull to 6. He has, a Cavern and Aether Vial and a fair number of low creatures, but included among them Matron and Instigator. So.
Aether Vial goes up to 1.
And
John draws another Cavern.
Spells will be largely uncounterable here. Cavern obviously set to Goblin. And we'll see Warring Instigator. Remember, there is a Source of Plowshares in Javier's hand. His game plan here is to get GT online. Right now, at least. I'm going to Thoughtseize John Marat. So we'll get a good look now at John's entire hand.
I predict goblins.
Yep.
There they are.
3 goblins and a land. So we have Chieftain, Matron, and Incinerator.
That Incinerator, probably what you need to take because it's a removal spell. And if Javier wants to get his GT online, he needs to keep a creature on the board.
He's going to go for Matron.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't like Matron. The fact that Matron can turn into anything else is pretty relevant. If he can keep enough goblins off the board with his swords here, Incinerator actually won't kill Stoneforge Mystic.
And Stoneforge is a decent blocker here against Warren Instigator.
We see second Instigator for Javier Arevalo. What that does mean is that John can attempt... No, actually, sorry, that won't work. I was going to say he could attempt to cycle Incinerator, but not yet. He'll need one more turn to do that. And we'll see Chieftain. John has to be careful. Javier could take, end step, put a GT into play, and then equip GT swing.
Yeah, so the Goblin Chieftain are now pumping the Warren Instigator, which is going to threaten to break past the Stoneforge Mystic.
And we'll put the fake out play. Javier also had the Batterskull in hand. Yeah, this is huge.
Please make your way to the main event stage. Zinga and Wagner to the main event stage, please.
But did John expect this is the question? Javier searched for Umezawa's GT with Stoneforge Mystic.
Right. Typically, you would want to. Your argument is typically you'd want to search for Batterskull, so he should be suspicious that the search wasn't for Batterskull.
I mean, they're both very good, but all right. So let's figure out what's going on here in combat. Looks like Batterskull blocked Goblin Chieftain.
Yeah, the Batterskull would have traded with Instigator, but it actually just gets to each Chieftain. Now Javier can play, if he has a fourth land, which he does, he has a world of options. He can play and equip GT, he can make Jace, all of them which seem like they're headed toward victory, but I think the GT is the strongest play, and Javier will make the play.
Yeah, so the way Javier has crafted this game, I think it makes a lot more sense why he took the Matron. Mm-hmm. With both Batterskull and Umezawa's GT in his hand, he wanted to make sure that John didn't go and get a Tuk-Tuk Scrapper to break that up.
Both creatures swing, that'll be 5 points of damage, 4 life gain, and most importantly, 2 GT counters.
Now Tuk-Tuk Scrapper is kind of John's only out here. He needs to top deck it.
And Javier will want to kill Warren Instigator probably right now so that you don't get a flashed into play Lord coming from John Marat. You know, right now he is running, by not killing both Instigators on end step there, he's running the risk by letting John untap. John could theoretically tap Etherval right now and put a Lord into play and really blow out Javier. I don't know whether John's last card, I believe, we don't know, and that's the Incinerator, so it does give John a chance to, if he cycles the Incinerator, he could draw a Lord here.
He'll cycle it.
Right, yeah, the 3-mana Lord would be a pretty, achievement would be a pretty sweet hit. And there were the lands, so that should mostly wrap up the game for Javier. And John agrees.
Yeah, those two artifacts really did a lot of work there in a short amount of time. Life gain, creature removal from equipment. That's
yeah, I mean
that's what you expect equipment
really
to do, right?
Yeah, it really shows off the strength of Stoneforge Mystic.
Life gain, I guess you would expect, but
making a flash 4/4, maybe not so much.
Not so much. Okay, so how does John recover from this?
So,
can he recover from this?
What can John do in this matchup?
And what the heck?
He has Angel of Despair in his sideboard. That's the Orzhov Angel
How does he
from Guildpact. I don't understand how he's going to cast that.
There's got to be some other plan going on here. He's got Chalice of the Void, Perish.
Grafter's Cage Relic, Pyrokinesis, Red Blast. Most of these are common. He has 2 Angel of Despair on his board, and if anyone has an idea of why a Goblin's deck would be playing that, I would
Please,
Yeah, let
if
us
you're
know.
out there listening,
Okay, it's for show and tell. All right. So for the show and it's a hedge for the show and tell matchup. That is,
okay, fair enough.
sure, yeah.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, that makes sense.
That deck itself has not really
Yeah.
seen much action lately, but
Yeah, that
I
one.
guess
So,
it's one of the
hoping that
more-
it'll come down, yeah, and blow up whatever the show and tell deck puts into play. Those sorts of
it's always funny when you have those cards where you're not expecting to cast them. I remember vividly the anti-Telemann performance tech was to put in a Phage the Untouchable,
yeah.
so that your opponent is forced to put your Phage into play. And you just look at the deck list and you're like, why'd you put a Phage in your mono blue deck? Okay, Javier, so he had a pretty easy time, but he can make it even easier for himself. He has 2 more copies of Supreme Verdict in his sideboard to bring his total up to 3.
Alright, so he has, so with 2 Supreme Verdicts, that's probably, I think, looks like the only card out of his sideboard that he'll really be digging for.
Meddling Mage is like it's a creature.
Both these decks have filled their sideboard with anti-combo cards. Nile Spellbomb, Meddling Mage for Javier, things like, Angel of Despair, Chalice, Grafter's Cage, Relic for John. That in a deck, in a matchup between 2 fair decks, neither of them has too many board options.
So Javier just wants to do what he did in that game. Get Stoneforge active and start cheating out his equipment. Supreme Verdict as a backup, and he still has other pieces to the puzzle in this deck. He's got Force of Wills, he's got 1 counter spell, so he'll probably be bringing out. Well, he's on the draw here, so he's gonna bring out his Spell Pierces. Those are almost useless. If you don't catch an Aether Vial with them, they're not going to help you.
Right, and it's the turn 1 Aether Vial that you really need to answer, and they don't do that on the draw.
So sub in Supreme Verdicts right there. And John just needs, I don't know, that game did not go how he wanted it to.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty keepable hand in the matchup. A turn 1 Aether Vial into a slew of 2 and 3 drops with Cavern backup, so he was able to commit a lot of stuff to the board right when he wanted to. I think one of the things is Warren Instigator is a very high risk, high reward card. When your opponent doesn't have a blocker for it, it's excellent. When they do manage to get creatures down, the card's not the strongest. As we saw there, even just a 1/2, kind of, it blanked his strategy, because there wasn't a way for him to be able to knock.
And he didn't have the turn 1 lackey.
Yeah,
either.
He didn't have the turn 1 lackey, but even though he had backup in the form of Chieftain and Incinerator, and neither of those was able to get through a 1/2.
Can't get through a 1/2.
Yeah.
That's a surprising statement. John Marat is going to mulligan. Looks like Javier is going to keep. No, maybe not. He's looking at his hand a little bit longer.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you signed up for $10 draft number 9, your event is ready for you. Please make your way over to the right of the main event stage.
I don't know, is this the fake out? Is he faking that he has a questionable hand?
It's unclear.
Do you do that?
Not usually in a match. No, you mean tank on an obvious keep to try to mislead someone?
Yeah.
Not very often. Certainly not to this degree. He's gonna keep it.
And it looks like he doesn't like it. We don't know if that's legitimate or if he's putting on a show for John. But it doesn't matter from John's perspective. He didn't like his first hand. We'll see what the next 6 look like. He also had no mulligan in game 1.
Right. Remember, if Javier doesn't have an answer to a turn 1 lackey, John can very quickly make up for the fact that he's on 6 cards.
And that's what he's going to want to see here. Land, lackey. Ideally Cavern of Souls, right? To protect around Force of Will. And there it is,
There you go,
Cavern on Goblins.
Cavern
Goblin.
Lackey.
Wow.
All right, there are very few answers to that. In the form of in reactive spells, pretty much none.
Needs to have a Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, I don't think Javier Arevalo has one. So that's what kind of what was the call there was the power of Junk Goblins being on the play. It's like this is how John easily makes up for his 6-card mulligan.
Yeah, because Javier's got a Stoneforge Mystic, but much worse here on the draw.
Well, he's gonna have to cross fingers and hope that what John puts into play isn't, is only somewhat broken as opposed to totally off the charts. And it looks like there's a Ringleader and a Krenko. That's not what Javier would like to see.
So I'm assuming that the Lackey hit right there. Javier might still be thinking,
He's
no,
going to
there it
opt
is.
for Ringleader over Krenko. And he's hitting, all he gets is a Tarfire
Just a Tarfire.
off the Ringleader. I'm interested in the fact that he chose the Ringleader instead of Krenko. Krenko seems like the card you'd want to play first. I'm sure he has good reason for it.
Also showing a red Elemental Blast and a Relic of Progenitus, so both of those sideboard cards, right?
Right. So he's going to, it looks like,
So this is what
Ether Vial.
This is what happens sometimes when you go to sideboard.
Ether Vial off the mountain and instead of Tarfire. He has Tarfire and Ether Vial, and he chooses to use the mountain for the Ether Vial. So it's turn 2. I don't know. There's nothing with Flash, so it seems like that's probably just a slight oversight on John Marat's part.
Yeah, he may mistakenly be thinking Cavern of Souls is going to allow him to cast Tarfire. It is a Goblin spell, but it's not. Cavern only allows you to cast a creature spell.
Right.
Using the colored mana. But it doesn't come into play that turn. Javier elects not to throw down a Stoneforge Mystic.
Javier has drawn a Swords to Plowshares now. Turn too late, but should still be good. It'll stop the truly broken plays from happening.
Yeah, he got a little lucky there that the Lackey put in a Ringleader that only revealed one card.
Interestingly enough, the fact that Marat put Ringleader into play instead of Krenko may end up working in Marat's favor, as this means this Swords to Plowshares will probably go on Goblin Lackey as opposed to going on to Krenko. So it might be that, just on curve, John will get to have a Krenko.
Javier's got a very shiny foil Zendikar land.
Swords will come down on Goblin Lackey.
I mean, that's an amazing golden green glare off of it. So goodbye, Goblin Lackey.
Javier goes to 16 from the hit from Goblin Ringleader. Marat, the card he has Incinerator, Chieftain, Krenko.
Passes the turn.
Yep, no third land, so he can't. Would have liked to have a third land there so he could continue to cast goblins, but they're almost all going to have to come out from Ether Vial now.
Yeah.
You see that's on Mishra's Factory, the Elspeth and Tezzeret Mishra's Factory.
Alternate art?
From Javier Arevalo. Stoneforge Mystic. So now Javier is going to start executing his game plan.
He calls upon the power of the Batter Skull.
We'll almost certainly see this Stoneforge get Tarfired. Yeah. Javier, before, yeah. Already it just assumes where the Mystic's going, and it is.
Yep. And John shows there that he does know that Cavern of Souls cannot cast Tarfire. Takes up the Ether Vial to 2. He's going to continue to get in there with the Goblin Ringleader for 2 points of damage, putting Javier to 14.
Yeah, still has not hit his third land, so John's playing more of a late game here. Javier eventually will, because he does have a second Stoneforge Mystic, will get a Batter Skull down. John with lots of good goblins, but none of the tutoring goblins may have trouble dealing with Batter Skull once it resolves. see a Snapcaster drawn from Javier. That'll be able to flash back Swords to Plowshares.
Javier plays a second Mishra's Factory.
He has 3 in his list.
And a Stoneforge Mystic, leaving both of his factories untapped.
Yeah, leaving them both untapped gives him a defense against Wasteland if John were to draw it. But to be fair, in John's position, if he draws Wasteland, I don't think he's actually wasting a Mishra's Factory.
He wants to cast some goblins.
Right.
I want to see him cast some goblins. I mean, we were talking this up as a creature aggro deck, and it's sputtered a bit here.
Yeah, I mean, it's missed its 3rd land. So it's a really a high synergy deck, and right now is just having trouble executing that game plan.
Javier gets Umezawa's Jite with his second Stoneforge Mystic and casts it.
John will be able to, what he'll have to do here is jump home and incinerate whatever Javier tries to put the Jite onto. And he's drawn a Ringleader, it looks like. So if he wants to, John's probably thinking he can Violin War Chief and then cast another Goblin. He's going to Violin Chieftain and just hit here. He needs, like I said before, he needs to
get some damage through, and he's going to put down...
He's going to jump home now. This is going to allow Javier Arevalo to have Jite counters.
Yeah,
well,
using the Mishra's Factory.
Actually, it's not, because John drew Wasteland off the cycle.
Oh, wow.
So, oh my, and he's... Or it will, if John has another land.
If Javier draws a land here...
Yeah, I think this to me seems a little aggressive. Jite counters and Javier does have lands, these are so strong in the matchup.
Yeah, he already had a Polluted Delta in hand, but he's drawn another Mishra's Factory. So now he can activate a factory and equip it with Jite and attack. Is that what he's going to do?
Yeah, John really just seems like he's not worried about Umezawa's Jite. I think he's fine with Javier equipping and getting Jite counters. And he believes he can race it. Or
a little
doesn't
surprising,
have to worry
though.
about it.
I mean, was there any reason to do that Wasteland?
Well, I mean, first based off the Incinerator play that he wants to just clear away for more damage, and then followed by the Wasteland, the aggressive Wasteland play.
I was fine with the Incinerator play, getting damage through.
Well, the Incinerator play does mean if he doesn't draw Wasteland, the Jite will be able to hit him, but then the Wasteland does the same thing.
So here we go. Javier just passing the turn. So he opts not to go down the line where he gets Jite counters using his Mishra's Factory. John untaps, takes up the vial to 4.
It looks like he's looking to Snapcaster Swords. Putting a vial up to 4 is a little tricky because John still hasn't found his land. What he can do is, if he wants to, he can upkeep, make War Chief, and then put the vial to 4, so that gives him the option to cast more goblins from his hand. At the same time, John's hand really doesn't have very much. Like, Javier's at 8. There's a lot of cards in John's hand that simply aren't going to be relevant during this game. Alright, Krenko into play. The Krenko Goblin Chieftain interaction, positively stupid. In response to the Krenko, Javier probably needs to, if you sell the Snapcaster Swords the Chieftain. And
looks like that's what he's going to do. Snapcaster Mage.
The thing is that he's waited until John activated Krenko to do it. So by hitting Krenko, they're still going to get 3
hits
goblins.
The Krenko.
That's still lethal. Javier, I think, is still dead. Because the 3 goblins will all get pumped by Chieftain and given haste. Yeah.
So, where are these? Let's get 3 goblin tokens then.
Yep, so the ability still counts.
+1/+1, and haste from the Chieftain. Thinking
And,
over,
yeah,
is
there's
this
some
lethal?
sort of questioning about the attack here, but yeah, just turns everything sideways, and that should get game 2 for John.
At best, he can block 3/3 and take 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep, that's it.
Okay, so game 2 goes to John Marat. He pulls one out from a little bit of a tricky situation. He's stuck on 2 lands the entire game.
Yeah, he did draw a third, but it was a wasteland, which he used immediately.
Right. I mean, once he has the Ether Vial, lands aren't his primary concern.
And he ticked the vial all the way up to 4 to get Krenko Mob Boss
Yeah, that's the
to finish off that game.
Yeah, that's something that really came about this summer, the Krenko Goblin Chieftain or Krenko Goblin War Chief interaction. It's just been, especially with Chieftain because of the 1/1, it's just been so strong in the deck. And Krenko's probably become a scarier target than Siege Gang Commander for the deck by and large.
That's a bit surprising to hear. Siege Gang has long been the big finisher
Yeah, I mean,
for Goblin decks.
as we saw there, Krenko was able to, with haste, come down and hastily make 3 1/1s that were 2/2s with haste, and just like kind of has these lines which are just really
with the
really
Chieftain,
powerful.
with the power toughness bonus, it's a really big game. Okay, so Javier shaking his head there. I don't know if he's happy with the way he played that. I mean, certainly on that last turn, if he swords the Chieftain instead of Krenko, he survives that turn.
Right.
But I don't know if he had.
And then he gets GT counters, so that that I think he has some game there.
He had some hope.
Right.
If
You're
he
right. It's
swords
still
the
not
Chieftain.
great.
Was there anything earlier on? Was he correct to not get the G-Day counters the turn before that? Where we noted he could have attacked, gotten 2 counters, but at best, he uses those to take out the Chieftain, so it's kind of the same thing.
Same thing, but then he still has a
Still has the Snapcaster play.
So I mean, the way he plays, I think it plays out the same way. So the play line he does there is fine. It's just that last turn he misses a play, which really got him.
All right, and John has to be much happier now. It's tied up 1-1, and even though he got that game, it's still, we haven't seen the Goblin deck fire on all cylinders.
Yeah. Well, he was very close that game. We got to see a turn 1 Lackey. Lackey it could have been Lackey into Krenko. John opted for Lackey into Ringleader.
Right,
the
and this
follow-up wasn't really there.
And this is what I wanted to kind of get to, is that off of the Goblin Ringleader, we saw a Relic of Progenitus and a red Elemental Blast. So the Goblin deck and the main deck is optimized for Ringleader.
Yeah.
But after sideboard, you bring in all of these non-Goblin spells, and you're kind of diluting your main game plan.
Well, I'm really surprised he has the Relic of Progenitus right now.
Yeah.
I understand that Javier is playing some Snapcaster the full set of Snapcaster mages, but that's the only card it's very live against. And especially as we saw there, it is very likely, that John sided out goblins for that.
Well, he had to have.
Yeah, he only has 4 non-goblin cards in his main, and that's the 4 Ether Vials. So, and I can't imagine he'd side those out.
And similarly with the red Elemental Blast.
Right, that draw 3 turned into a draw 1 because of sideboard.
He's got Aether Vial and he's got Cavern of Souls, so he shouldn't be that afraid of counter spells. So the red Elemental Blast is primarily there to disrupt Snapcaster flashbacks or brainstorms maybe.
I think the difficult part is that the cards that he loses to from Esper Stoneblade are the white cards, not the blue cards.
Yeah.
So turn 1 Engine Explosives on 1 is preemptively answering
the Vial.
A Vial or a Lackey. Interesting enough, so John has a Red Blast and a Relic of Progenitus, both in his opener.
And there you go, diluting his hand with these supposed answer cards, but we're not quite sure what he wants to answer.
Yeah, so if you look at what he sided out, he probably sided out a Warren Weirding, Skirk Prospector, Sting Scourger, Sharpshooter, maybe Siege Gang. It's hard to say what all the cards he got rid of would have been.
Yeah, so what he's gotten rid of are not the world's greatest goblins, but they are still goblins.
Right.
So John goes with Wooded Foothills, Crack, Mountain into Vial.
Yep.
which Javier is most likely just going to get rid of here, yeah?
Maybe. I
So
mean,
you're
the
gonna
thing
let
is
him-
that I don't think Javier has any counter spells, so he can wait a turn. He can do that. He'll do this on end step, obviously. If he wants to, he can wait. The reason he has to get rid of Arevalo is Arevalo is a really great mana source for John.
Yeah, you certainly don't mind it going to 1 because your explosives is on 1. So if he activates in response, he's
Yeah.
going to lose whatever creature he puts into play. So the second counter is the critical one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think that we're gonna see Arevalo get taken down here. So Warren Instigator for John Marat. And of note is that John doesn't. I don't know
Now
if
he has to crack it because he needs the mana to deal with the Instigator.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that John's gonna be putting into play with Instigator. I know he has another Instigator. It looks like he had a Goblin Matron. I know he has a Red Blast and a Relic.
Instigators begetting Instigators.
Well, that's not as strong as it might seem. So Javier.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
Yeah. It plays Mishra's Factory. He hasn't been dealing with in hand. He can't cast. More importantly, he has Swords and Snapcaster in his hand, so he's gonna really try to out attrition Goblin. You know, he's gonna try to remove everything from Goblins. And the first Instigator hits a Sword, so he opts to try to trade. He opts to trade Instigator with a.
Why not
Sword instead of
block with the
Factory?
factory there?
I think I like the Factory block because Factory, block pumps itself, can actually eat.
Yeah,
the one
and he
Instigator.
would still have a wide open for Source Splashes if anything funny tries.
Yeah, the only funny thing that could happen would be a Tarfire. First strike damage on Tarfire.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or, you could say in response to the pump, Tarfire. Yeah, I'm nothing I'd be overly worried about. Arevalo from John Marat and Relic of Progenitus. So Relic here actually is going to probably get its value as a card. It's going to be able to. He can cycle it to exile the Source to Plowshares, and as long as he doesn't play another creature before doing that, Javier won't be able to get value from a Snapcaster. So I think Relic proving its worth this game.
Okay, fair enough.
And a main phase Vendilion Click. Here's that would be the play from Javier.
Having seen the Red Blast flipped over in the previous game.
And in his hand, so a wise
Well, it's in
play.
his hand, but
Yeah, I mean,
Javier doesn't know that.
right. No, I mean,
But yeah.
he's playing around it, and then
And it was in his hand.
Yeah, it's always that good feeling when you play around something, and then you're like, oh, and you realize that you did it right.
I did it right. Giggity giggity.
So I think the clear pick here is Goblin Matron. The problem is without Matron, John Marat's hand is a bunch of mana and a 1/1. A counter spell, a 1/1.
One with double strike.
Okay,
But yeah,
okay, a
it's-
2/2. I'll call it a 2/2. I'll concede that. But
Call it a 2-1.
Sure,
How about
2.
that
Yeah,
Goblin
it's a
Piker.
The problem is that,
Get rid of that Matron. That represents the most potential danger down the line, especially once Aether Vial starts ticking up.
He's going to go, it looks like, with Red Blast. So
Okay.
Javier may have a Jace in his hand, and if he does, that seems like a very fair play. He also may have that Snapcaster. He's going to pass the turn. John will Relic and Engineer Explosives will bite the dust. John does not have to crack his Relic, remember. He can just tap it again to get rid of the Swords to Plowshares. Now, he may choose to crack it as he is searching for another land.
Yeah, Javier, I think you're right. Probably looking for some kind of Jace line. Or at the very least, just a line where he races.
Yeah, John's going to be able to get that Swords to Plowshares and maybe just make another Arevalo. If he's not drawing lands, the nice part about Arevalo is with a pair of Arevalos, John doesn't need lands.
Cracks a fetch.
So John did hit the third land.
I feel like John should be at 17 here, yeah? He's got 3 fetch lands.
That is for Warren Weirding, which we presume has already been boarded out.
The least useful goblin.
Yep. Goblin Matron. So now that John's tapped out, he can't crack the Relic. He can tap it. He probably will do so.
He gained a life from Source to Plowshares.
He's going to want to tap it before he attempts to make any more goblins, as otherwise Javier Arevalo is going to be able to get value off that Swords.
Yeah, again, don't wait until the last minute just because you can.
Yeah.
The whole reason that the relic is in there and is out on this board is to prevent situations like that where Snapcaster Swords to Plowshares gains value.
And Ringleader, the go-to guy, I think that's the correct pick too. That's when he got off the matron.
Yeah, he needs to refill.
Yep, he needs to refill. Because he didn't play the second Ether Vial here, he's going to be a little choked on casting this Ringleader, but it's the correct play. There's not one trump card he wants to get, he just wants more cards.
John lets Javier untap, so Snapcaster is still live, but
yeah, the
Snapcaster on Matron is not really.
What I don't like about letting him untap there is now he has a fetch land,
and he can keep it alive for even another turn beyond that potentially. Yeah.
Right. You know, presumably John has put in the relics to deal with Snapcaster, and the thing you least want them to Snapcaster is a lightning bolt. So, acknowledging that that's your play, I think you need to not a lightning bolt, a swords. Acknowledging that that's your play, you need to relic the swords.
And now, I was thinking like maybe Javier took the red elemental blast because he felt that racing with Click might be his route to victory here.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Matron did not get Tuck Scrapper. So because John's already played this Matron, Javier is going to actually just go for hard casting Batterskull right now. This is the window where John would typically scrap the Batterskull, but it's not going to be able to do so.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. Usually Batterskull gets searched out with Stoneforge Mystic and then cheated into play. Sometimes you just draw it, and sometimes you just hardcast it, and it's good enough.
So going back, a couple people on Twitter pointed out that early on the factory couldn't have eaten the Warren Instigator. It would have had to trade with it because it was summoning sick. Javier played the land first and the factory second. That said, I'm not sure that even a trade there would have been particularly bad.
That's a very good point. The turn you play the Mishra's Factory, you cannot activate its ability once you turn it into a creature. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Gem Palm Incinerator drawn by Marat. He did exile a card on end step, so still that one card left in Javier's graveyard. You know, at this point, just like, yeah, still, I think he's just gonna end step it. He's set to auto end step things. So there he plays, I believe his Goblin Lackey. Was that Skirk Prospector?
What is that?
Skirk Prospector. So Prospector wasn't boarded out. I'm very curious what John boarded out for the Relic and Red
full package. Probably Sharpshooter, Sting Scourger, certainly.
Right, so he has the full 5. So he's probably cutting into his Gem Palm Incinerators or Chieftains.
Scourger's decent against the Germ Token here.
Right.
But Skirk Prospector, you can block, sacrifice, negate the lifelink.
Yeah, then that's what he's going to do. So he plays Skirk Prospector to negate the lifelink. It's passing to Javier Arevalo.
Goblins on the defensive. Not something you see every day.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is peculiar. It's not the worst coming from John Marat. Remember, Goblins does probably have better card advantage than Esper Stoneblade does. So he can overwhelm, he can like almost pseudo be a control deck here.
And there's another fetch land.
The Swords is live. Well, kind of live, as long as John doesn't tap. John can't tap out safely at this point.
I mean, Javier is going to attack with both those guys, right?
Right, so what I think we'll probably see a cycled Incinerator at the V-click and a block sack no life gain from Goblin Matron. John may take a hit of 4 once from the Batterskull.
Is Javier considering adding Mishra's Factory to his attackers?
That might be, yeah. Javier has drawn his Supreme Verdict here as well. He has actually 3 of them after board. Remember, we know that John Marat has both players know that John Marat has a Ringleader in hand.
Correct. Fetched off of the Goblin Matron. Okay, here we go. He goes to equip the Batterskull to the Vendilion Click.
And
John
remember, if this equip fails, the Batter Skull, you know, if he shoots it in response.
Yeah, don't throw that germ away yet. I guess he's letting it resolve.
Interesting. So by letting it resolve, he's gonna relic.
Well, we don't know if he's letting it resolve yet.
Okay,
yeah, it looks like he's going for the Gem Palm in response.
Now remember, if he goes in response, the germ's not dead.
Correct.
Yeah, the germ should still be in play.
Yeah, can we make sure that the germ token is actually remains on the battlefield, please?
Yeah,
and there we go. I love the judge hands when they...
Yeah, there's where the third hand, not holding cards, comes in.
Pointing to things and like, so this did something to that.
Yeah, so when John first didn't respond, I was thinking what he was going to try to do was... get hit by the Vendilion Click, vial in a goblin, untap, play a goblin, vial a goblin, then shoot the V-Click, and then you'd get both the germ and the... It's kind of, certainly is a convoluted
And
line.
so what happened was that, given that he was going to kill the Vendilion Click, he used the relic in response first to get rid of the Swords to Plowshares. Javier elected not to crack his Polluted Delta to keep the swords live.
So John Marat blocks sacks with Matron. I presume sacks to buy himself a turn, life points.
Right.
To deny lifelink.
And is now cycling relic.
And a 4th land from John Marat. Very nice.
So now that Skirk Prospector is going to allow him to execute his game plan while negating the lifelink.
Warren Instigator into play for John Marat. He does still have to face down this Batter Skull, but there's a Red Blast. He has another Gem Palm Incinerator in hand, which in combination with Sword Foothills, if he can get 2 more goblins on the battlefield.
Easy, no problem.
Play a goblin, tap a vial, incinerate the Batter Skull, swing, put the rest of your hand into play. If only Javier had some sort of sweeper to counteract that line.
If only.
Yeah.
I don't think such a card exists.
I'm wondering if they're going to see Supreme Verdicts be.
He showed it to us at the beginning of Game 1,
right.
His Singleton. He didn't even need to use it in Game 1, but he's going to need to use it here. So here it comes,
yeah.
Goblin Ringleader.
Ringleader on for 4.
How many?
Land, Red Blast.
Oh, there it is again.
Land, and a whiff by Goblin Ringleader.
A complete whiff, and Javier puts his hands on his head, says, "How lucky am I?"
Yeah, the 2 Ringleaders have drawn 1
Yeah, that's
card
you.
For John Marat. Those board cards have really, because we know this is his 3rd Red Blast. Javier put a Red Blast on the bottom, a Red Blast in Marat's hand, a Red Blast on the bottom again. That's all 3 out of the board have been boarded in, and they've been really hurting his Ringleaders.
And since the printing, or not the printing of Ringleader, because it was actually printed, no, it was Apocalypse, right? Goblin Ringleader? But since this Goblin deck came together, people have had this debate about how many Goblins can you cut before Ringleader sucks.
I mean, I think part of that debate is, what do you mean by sucks? Like, is it ever going to be bad? No, probably never.
Well, I've seen entire articles written on, like, how many cards on average do you get off Ringleader? It's like, if you have this many Goblins, you get 2.5. If you have this many, you get 2.1. Okay, meanwhile, Batter Skull takes a chunk.
And it's going to be joined by Stoneforge Mystic. That the failed card advantage there by Ringleader is pretty relevant. He needs to find a matron or some way to blow up he needs to somehow get his Tuk-Tuk Scrapper.
Yeah, but now Javier's got enough mana that he's clearly just going to leave the Batter Skull ability open. 3 mana return to hand. He's reached a comfortable point now with his life total.
Yeah, and with nothing like a Pithing Needle in the Goblin's deck, John Marat does not have an actual way to answer Batter Skull by removing it. He will have to instead overpower Batter Skull, so what he'd probably be looking for then is something like Krenko. He'll hope to Tuk scrap the Jite and then Krenko his way. You know, you could do something like Krenko plus first skirt Prospector to continually deny life gain and not take hits, and then eventually overwhelm. He's gonna have to do something like that. That's gonna be very hard to do because Javier has Supreme Verdict. And once
I say that's a narrow game plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not, you know, it's reasonable to try to overpower.
It's reasonable.
But like I said, I think to do it through a Wrath is very hard. You know, Javier has no qualms about wrathing the board right now. He has a Germ token and a Stoneforge Mystic, and he'll still have a creature in the Manly.
Yeah, this Batterskull, the return ability.
Batterskull is quite the card.
There's a second vial for John.
So John finally makes the second vial. He doesn't really see a way to break through yet. There's a little over 4 minutes left, under 4 minutes left in the round.
There is no way to break through this Batterskull, currently at least.
Right.
It's just such an oppressive card because not only does it attack, gains 4 life.
Yeah, it has the vigilance is pretty.
Yeah, it just sits there with vigilance.
So Javier, I don't know, the players may or may not be aware of the time in the round. For Javier, it's probably the most relevant situation, and he wants to make sure that he can win this game. John can prolong this game a long time if he needs to.
Yeah, he can just continually generate chump blockers here.
Right. Javier doesn't have a great way to continue generating threats.
Because
or
that
not with any good speed.
It will.
Looks like Jace will join. And I would say this game clearly going to Javier.
Clearly going to Javier if he had enough time.
Yes, if he had enough time, clearly going to Javier. So.
John's going to go for Red Elemental Blast on the Jace Mind Sculptor.
Legacy players, that is time in the round. Finish your turn, you have 5 additional turns.
So you hear time called in the main tournament. On the feature match, they got a bit of a late start, but we've got the official time. 3 more minutes.
And Jump Palm Incinerator will incinerate the Germ token and draw Marat a card.
So I think what's happening here is the Warren Instigator blocked. First strike damage. Gem Palm Incinerator for 3.
Yep.
And
that seems fair. Germ goes away.
now does John have a window?
And I want to open this discussion here where Red Blast is in this matchup. We got to see right there Red Blast on Jace, which is arguably the best blue card in Javier's deck.
Yes, it did. It did a good job. It did its job.
So what I want to ask then is, did it do its job? Did it do its job? Like, it countered the best card in Javier's deck. Is John now winning because of it? And I think my answer would be no.
And if it had been another random goblin.
What I'm saying is that if that's the best Red Blast can do right there, then and it doesn't win you the game, and you're still losing because of it, is Red Blast the card for the matchup?
I think John is potentially still winning, depending on what goblins he can spit out here.
Right, he has 1 turn here to really go to town.
Yeah, this is his window. He needs to do something big.
He would hope if he can draw Ringleader, pre-combat, Violin Ringleader, draw some really broken goblins, Warren Instigator, broken goblin into play, first strike, another dumb goblin. Like there's some lines here that are just disgusting. A lot of them will then lose to untapped Supreme Verdict. But John does get a turn here to really get some card advantage. John is not clear on what's left in his hand.
I don't know if he has anything left.
Okay, he's gonna cycle away a relic. He wants to find a good target to hit for the. He wants to find another goblin to maybe instigate into play.
That's red. Red means you're not dead. I mean, he could still be dead. There are some rather low impact goblins. Calculating, calculating. Do it! Turn them all sideways. Well, I guess not the prospector.
Right, he needs to keep a blocker back so he can generate, so he can deny GT counters. So Goblin Sharpshooter into play. Sharpshooter with Skirk Prospector, by the way, is a fairly powerful combo.
That's going back old school.
Yeah,
Onslaught
for those of you who played
block.
like Onslaught Block Goblins, remember just how fun that can be.
And by fun, Matthias means terrible.
Kills everything.
Especially when Goblin on Goblin Mirror, you Patriarch's bidding. It's like, how does this work? We both get back like 15 goblins. Who wins?
So this is actually, so time has now been called. This is turn 0 for on Javier Arevalo.
So John is going to get 3 more attack steps to try to end it.
I'm not sure either player is really in a great position to kill the other person. Both players now will have 3 turns, essentially. So this is Javier's first turn.
Yeah. John's got too many chump blockers in the way for Javier to effectively finish him off, and Javier's got the Supreme Verdict in his back pocket.
I'm surprised that the equip from Batterskull was allowed to happen. I would have expected Marat would have sharp shot the Stoneforge Mystic, sacked a Goblin to make a red mana. Sharp shot.
It doesn't have haste.
Oh no, it doesn't have. Okay, we don't have a haste Goblin play.
He doesn't have Chieftain or War Chief. I mean, you usually have one of those.
Okay, exactly. I'm used to all the Goblins having haste in this matchup. That is absolutely true. It doesn't actually have haste. So, yeah,
he's just going to throw it away.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's a lot to ask of it to be able to shoot Stoneforge Mystic.
At this point, equipped with everything.
6.
And he's got to keep the Prospector around because it's a sack outlet.
Right. And I think Arevalo is giving Marat a chance to win, kind of.
Turn 1 now, John Marat of 5.
Well, if I'm Arevalo, what I want to do here is, I don't know, I was going to say Supreme Verdict and then end step Snapcaster just as an Ambush Viper, so that I can equip a bunch of things to it, and then hopefully
Arevalo's on turn 2.
I think Arevalo can win on turn 6. I don't know if he can win on turn 4.
I can't believe you just called Snapcaster Mage Ambush Viper.
Well, that's what you do when you don't flash it back with anything. It's an Ambush Viper.
Tiago Chan is crying. I think he's at GP Lisbon right now.
I picked Ambush Viper very highly in draft. That is a compliment.
Oh, okay. It's a sign of respect.
It's a sign of respect to compare you among the great common snakes of Innistrad.
And it looks like Javier's doing some math of his own to just decide if they want to draw at this point. They're like, okay, so you can't win, I can't win. How much damage can you do?
I mean, I think Javier has a pretty good argument that if this game continues on, he's the favorite to win. But because of the way that the problem is, like, it's very hard to convince a Goblins player of this because it's not entirely true. Say the top of John's deck is a ringleader followed by 4 Goblins. Well, then John's not dead. So there are top decks where John can win this. Remember, Javier does have 1 draw already this tournament
and doesn't want a second.
Second draw
is basically a loss. He has to win out.
Yep.
So Javier decides to split up his equipment, activates Mishra's factory, and equips it with GT. So now John cannot blank both.
Right, he'll probably blank the GT counters and just...
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I mean, it depends if John's trying to play for the winner draw. At this point, to me, draw seems correct. John's last card is a Cavern of Souls, so he doesn't actually have a reasonable way to try to win this game.
He can blank the GT, take 5 here, go to 4, and Javier only has 1 combat step left.
So Ringleader sacks denies GT counters, John takes 4, drops to 5, Javier to 21. John's gonna untap. He's hoping to start chaining Goblin to basically get start a Goblin card advantage chain. And Arevalo,
perhaps a food chain.
That would be very old school of him to do that. Unfortunately, that deck used to exist on the back of Goblin Recruiter, which I believe is banned in Legacy.
That's true. John's going to make sure he can survive Javier's last attack. Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I believe John drew his card and said go. So yeah, or as I would say, Ambush Viper.
Ambush Viper. Can we call it like Ambush Tiago?
And Cabal Therapy. That is Cabal Therapy, right?
Yeah.
So he's boarded in one of his two Cabal. He boarded in 2 Cabal Therapies.
I'm actually a bit surprised by that.
He must feel he doesn't have enough answers to a turn 1 Ether Vial or Goblin Lackey as he would like. So he's trying to look for any way that he could answer those.
Sure.
Certainly a card that becomes dead pretty quickly, but you may be able to still scrounge some value off it later on because, for example, John matroned into something and then
all these lands. Look how many lands John Marat has drawn.
Yeah.
5 in play, 3 in his hand. Mishra's Factory, equip can only get you to 2.
Right. And the thing is if John is undefeated right now, he will. And I'm not sure on John's record. I know Javier has 1 draw. If John's at 4-0, he will likely not concede this game. A loss and a draw are 2 very different results to John. So. So sometimes people have to this would be like what's I would call a gentleman's concession, but
I don't think John will concede anyway. He's always been a very tough guy. He lives and dies on the sword, so
John will
block sack, take 2.
John goes to 2, and it looks like the game will be headed to a draw. Another Stoneforge for Javier.
And at this point, Javier is kind of in showboat mode to try to say, hey, look, I've really got this one. Will you concede?
So Marat, if he draws, I don't know if there's a line that gets him for this. I was going to see if there. And it certainly doesn't start. Yep, does not start with Goblin Lackey. So both players will confirm. I believe that was a draw there, which will put Javier Arevalo needing to win out for the rest of the tournament.
$10 number 10 to be made at the stage, please.